are joined today by
J.R. Romano.
All right. J.R. Romano here. Thank you for tuning in. As always, please subscribe. We are on multiple platforms. So anyone out there listening, number one, I just want to touch base. We do have our big Republican gala coming up September 16th. Go to ct.gop if you want to attend. It should be a great night. We're looking for, it actually is the largest gathering of Republicans outside of our state convention. So it's a really good time. If you've never been, I strongly encourage you to go. It'll be a great night. We have two congressmen coming in who are veterans. And they're going to be telling their story about what it's like to be in Congress right now with the unhinged and insane Democratic Party. So that was a little housekeeping, little plug for the party. So let's see, how do I start? This week has been, I don't know, what's the word, bizarre politically in the state of Connecticut. I think I'll start with another elected Democrat, someone who holds public office. Her name is Gloria Marin. I think her name is Marin. Out in Putnam. I know it's a tiny little town up in the northeast corner. And why her elected position should matter and what she did. Well, first let me tell you what she did. She shared out. I don't know for those that didn't see, Tommy Lee. The ex-80s rocker, which we're going to have a little bit of a music tribute in honor of Tommy Lee after. But he shared out some pretty vile things, basically saying we are going to punish everyone that supports President Trump. Essentially, we are going to make your life a living hell because we hate you. And this Gloria Marin, who is an elected official in Putnam, she serves on the special council or the special district, it's called. And part of her responsibility is oversight of police. And she shared out Tommy Lee's post, which was basically about political retribution for those that we do not like. I mean, it was over the top. It was foul. And she shared it out as a Democrat, basically endorsing the idea that people that don't agree with Democrats should face. I mean, I can't even go into for those out there, if you want to go look at what Tommy Lee wrote, but it was disturbing. And this woman endorses that type of mentality and she oversees police. But here's where it gets bizarre. Oh, and here's the other little side fact. I love the fact that when these instances happen, when you have local Democrats who are behaving unhinged the way that Gloria has, you call on Senator May Flexer to kind of condemn this type of behavior, right? Because it's not just some random person, right? It's not just some person that has a Facebook account. It's someone who is elected, who is responsible for oversight, is responsible for being impartial in a government position. What if someone comes in there and needs something and has a Trump hat on? How is Gloria going to treat that person as she's supposed to be elected and represent everybody? Right? It truly is the problem within the Democratic Party right now. They believe they're entitled to enact this retribution. And when you see elected officials behaving this way, not just random people online, just the people that are not involved, these are people who are winning support within Democrat circles, like May Flexer support. May Flexer supports this woman. This woman who serves on a board that oversees police and believes in political retribution. And the bizarre part was this woman kind of challenged me on it, talking about let's sit down for coffee and not once condemning the words of Tommy Lee, not once saying I shouldn't have shared it, never once taking responsibility for the fact that she believes in what Tommy Lee had posted. It is bizarre. It is truly, truly bizarre. I can't even explain it, but yet here they are, Democrats running for public office, can talk about political retribution, can go after kids. What happened in West Haven, calling a 15-year-old a sexist, misogynist, homophobe. No consequences when Democrats behave so atrociously in regards to the way that they communicate publicly. And again, we're not talking about just some random person on the street. We're talking about elected officials. We're talking about Board of Ed members. We're talking about council members that talk this way. It's disturbing. And we have to continue to highlight and point out these things, because if we don't, God knows the media doesn't, right? The media will not talk about these things. But, for me, if a congressman says something, tweets something out from Iowa, I have to respond as the party chairman here in Connecticut. It is actually one of the most frustrating things to deal with on a regular basis, where in our own state, we have insane things happening with the Democratic Party. I'd been interviewed with Rosa DeLauro about how she's now too moderate. I'm not going to go over this again, but that's how crazy the Democratic Party has become. And once again, this week, another week, you have a Democrat doing crazy things online and nobody cares. So, but we have to make sure that all of you are aware of this stuff. If it happens out there, send it to me. We'll make sure that we highlight it here on the podcast. I'll go, I went on Lee Elsey's show. He does a great job. And we talk about, we make the public aware of how Democrat elected officials have disdain for those they disagree with. So that was how the week started. Now, for those, I've talked about Scott Bates, previous podcast. He is, just as a reminder, kind of in the center of this controversy in regards to the Port Authority, where basically there was abuse of power, misspent, padding the pockets of friends with taxpayer dollars, no accountability, and Mr. Bates has disappeared. In fact, there's only really one thing that I want to hear from Scott Bates. And here it is. That's right. Scott, it's time to confess. It's time to own up to the fact that you abused your power. You lacked any sense of ethics. And here's the best part. He didn't show up for a hearing this week because he didn't want to take questions from Republicans. He hid. He's still hiding. By the way, Denise Merrill's hiding on this issue. Governor Lamont actually sent a letter out praising Scott. The Democrats talk about, ethics. What ethics? They spent thousands of dollars on iPhone pictures. They paid for an interior designer twice the market rate that happened to be a friend. These are all things that happened. And the public needs to not let this go. We need to demand answers from Scott Bates. And frankly, he should resign. He should have resigned as soon as this broke. Yeah, you got caught, Scott. You got caught padding the pockets of your friends and abusing the taxpayers. And now you're hiding in Denise Merrill and Ned Lamont's bunker shamefully, because it's not about what's right in the Democratic Party. It's about power. It's about taking care of the Democrats. Because if you're a Democrat, you can believe and say whatever you want. They will protect you until the end. And this is a prime example of that. When there was government corruption with John Rowland, we had a situation where we changed laws, we had hearings, we had all these things, rightfully, by the way. Here, we have a hearing, and you know what the best part? The guy who's responsible doesn't even show up. No one's called for him to resign outside of the New London Day and other Republicans. Not even a Democrat has the courage to call for this guy to resign. You as individual voters, we have to be telling these people we have to tell until Scott resigns. Every interview, every conversation, everything has to do with the fact that you are turning a blind eye to blatant corruption. And the best part in the testimony that he didn't even bother to show up, other people involved in the Port Authority showed up, basically said, well, we didn't have any protocols. It doesn't take protocols to know you shouldn't pay twice as much for interior design. It doesn't take protocols to understand that you shouldn't pay thousands of dollars for iPhone pictures. That doesn't need protocol. That's just common sense and having ethics and character, which apparently Scott lacks. But don't worry about it, Scott, because as long as Denise Merrill and Ned Lamont sit quietly on the sidelines hoping that the media and the press go away, you're going to keep your job. But we're not going away. This is going to be in campaign literature. This is going to be everywhere, because you do not deserve to be in that position based on the thousands upon thousands of dollars that you abused to make your friends rich. It's time to face what you did. It's time, that's right, for your confessions. Now, I know I got a little excited because, whenever I think of these situations, I think of, my friends and family back home in the valley, right? People who punch a clock every day, who work hard. They show up gym owners that show up at 5 a.m. to teach, 15 people about health and fitness. I think of, my brother-in-law who oversees water main breaks. He does it in the dead of winter, in cold, freezing his tail off to make sure that when people wake up in the morning, they can have a hot shower. And then I think of what the Democrats are, what they believe they're entitled to, a part of my brother-in-law's salary, a part of that gym owner's salary, a part of that restaurant's hard-earned labor. And they take it and they laugh at us when they take it. Scott Bates did not care about any of those people. He just patted the pockets, no big deal. Who's going to find out? Well, time to pay the piper. And before I get on to Cathy Osten, I just kind of wanted to touch base on Ned Lamont went and met with the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. And I'm really curious, what possibly they could have talked about. Do you think they talked about how to destroy an economy? Do you think they talked about like how to avoid taking responsibility for the fact that our states are one of the highest taxed? Ned Lamont doesn't want to face what's happening in the state of Connecticut. He really doesn't. He wants to pretend like these things aren't happening. I mean, the fact that he is, and I know I touched on the Scott Bates thing, but he is nowhere. He is nowhere on solving the state's problems. We are still ranked economically at the lowest levels with no future in sight. And I know there's some, and this is the greatest irony. We may have a surplus, right? They're projecting a surplus, but the reality isn't. And I need everyone to understand this when it starts to come out, because the Democrats are going to try to spin it like it's this wonderful thing. Oh, look, we have a surplus. Yet, if you analyze those numbers, I'm going to bet. The reason we have a surplus isn't because our economy here in Connecticut's booming. It's because of the stock market. We happen to be a state that has a lot of hedge funds, a lot of investment groups. And so what happens during capital gains is they have to pay taxes. I'm going to venture there's a big part of our surplus is centered around how well the stock market's doing because of the president. Not because anything Ned Lamont did or anything the Democrats did, because what's happened is in the state of Connecticut, the number of people who are employed is flat. We've lost jobs. So it's not, those surpluses are not based on, say, more people having jobs. It's probably based on the fact that the stock market's doing fairly well over the last few years and they've raised taxes. They're collecting more from us, the ones that are here. So don't for 1 minute think that it's a positive in the respect that somehow a higher tax receipts or a surplus has been generated through economic growth. It hasn't. What they've done is they've just taxed us more. Keep that in mind when you're talking about, and as that's going around the dinner table and you're hearing your union friends talk, well, we have a surplus. Look, it's going great. No, it's because they've taken more money from us. It's not because the economy's done well. And on that point, let's talk about Cathy Osten. Now, for those that don't remember, Cathy has become notorious because what she rightfully explained that during the toll argument, the Special Transportation Fund was never raided, and she's right. I'll let her explain it to you. Here you go. You can hear it yourself.
How many times have we taken money out of the Special Transportation Fund and moved it into the general fund? Well, we've not done that. We diverted some money from going into that, which is different.
You serious? Hell no!
Now, so in that case, she was honest. She told the truth that the Democrats basically robbed the armored car before it got to the bank, right? They diverted the money where it was intended to fix our roads, but they took it to pay operating expenses. But here's what happened this week. Cathy Osten, is the sitting first selectman in Sprague, Connecticut. And there was a conversation going on in one of the town meetings about the taxes in the state and the taxes basically there was someone they were talking about how the state of Connecticut is raising taxes, making it harder for municipalities because they're passing these things on to the cities. And well, I'll play the clip, And you can hear, and by the way, when you hear this, I want you to understand, Cathy Osten voted. She literally voted for the tax increases that she claims don't exist. Here's the clip.
We have been depleting this town of their funds for a long time before I got in this board.
Because we didn't want to raise taxes.
But the state keeps raising the taxes, so what happens at the big level?
Doesn't raise taxes. That's not true. Doesn't raise taxes. That's not true.
10-cent plastic bag tax is now officially in effect at all of our stores and restaurants.
That's right. And if you're on a tight budget, you'll be feeling the pinch.
A sales tax hike.
Sometimes, just to avoid taxes in Connecticut on clothes and stuff like that, I will go to Massachusetts.
So based on that, and I know a lot of people, I'm a 90s kid. They're going to laugh because we found a new theme song for Cathy Osten. And this is kind of going back to the Tommy Lee post. But we decided as the Republican Party that we needed to give Cathy Osten a theme song with everything that's happened this year. And here it is, guys. And for those that remember, born, I was 40 this year. So this is definitely a Gen X song, and I hope you appreciate it. So Cathy, here's your new theme song. Well, there you have it, guys. That is the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Again, the Bush Dinner tickets are on sale. Visit ct.gop, and hopefully we'll see you too. And thanks for subscribing. Talk to you next week.